Church. And I will say it again, I want to welcome all of our visitors who are here. I know we have visitors here who came to spend the weekend singing. And there was quite the concert last night. I don't know how you have any voice left at all after that. That was amazing. Stedden, you're leading singing this morning. You're doing a good job. You managed all that last night and this. What a blessing it is. And I agree with Terry. The blessing of song is a great one as we sing together. It's such a gift that God gave to us. We are in a series, Summer in the Psalms, and we're spending each week looking at one, maybe two Psalms that touch our hearts in different ways. And last week, we looked at a couple of Psalms, Psalm 100 and Psalm 148, that just invited us to lift our voice up. And we spent a lot of extra time last week just singing praises to God. Because sometimes life is so good, and the only response that seems fitting is to just sing a thank you to the Lord. But life is not always smooth, is it? Oftentimes, life is hard, sometimes for days and weeks and months on end. And sometimes it seems that as time goes by, our life becomes more troubled instead of easier. It gets worse instead of better. And it's not always the outside struggles. Very often it's those inside struggles. So what do you do? What do you do when you are struggling and it's a matter of the heart? Anyone ever tell you to snap out of it? Boy, I wish it were that easy. I wish it were just so easy that I could say, okay, I'm just going to flip a switch and my attitude will be changed. My dark clouds over my head will be removed. It usually doesn't work that way. And this is the background for Psalm 77. If you don't have your Bibles there, we're going to be spending our time this morning here in the 77th Psalm. Let me read the first few verses. I cry aloud to God, and he will hear me. In the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand is stretched out without wearying. My soul refuses to be comforted. And when I remember God, I moan. And when I meditate, my spirit faints. The psalm is attributed to the one of the most prolific psalmists, Asaph. And whether he was writing about himself or whether he was writing about somebody else, it doesn't make much difference. He's writing about a time of distress, sorrow, grief, and pain. We don't know really any of the other details about it. And maybe it's best that we don't. There are a handful of psalms in which there is a superscription as you begin the psalm that says, this psalm was written at this point in the life of David. But most of the Psalms, we don't have any of that. And I think there's a reason. Because we are not really being asked to understand the specifics of the pain of the psalmist in order to understand the psalm. What we're being asked to do is to bring our own pain into the psalm and lament with the psalmist, to feel as he did. It's not a matter so much of understanding up here. It's a matter of feeling the psalm here. Well, the psalmist is trying to shake whatever his mood is, whatever the darkness, the depression is that he has in his life. In verse 1 we read, I cry aloud to God, he will hear me. I like this. He says, Lord, I'm in pain. Whether it's depression or whether it's disease or whatever it is, he says, I am miserable. And God, I'm going to let you know about my misery. I am not going to just stuff it down. I'm going to bring it to you. And I think that's the first way he tries to bring himself some relief. In verse 2, he says, in the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. So he's seeking God and his counsel, and in maybe modern terminology, he's picking up his Bible. And he says, I'm going to see if I can find some relief, some words of wisdom that will make a difference to me here. And that hasn't helped him as much as he wanted. And then in verse 3, when I remember God, I moan, and when I meditate, my spirit faints. He said, I'm going to focus on God. I'm going to meditate. And even then, I can't do it. I faint, I moan. Even that isn't bringing me relief. All of these things are good. The crying out to God, the seeking his counsel, the meditating, all of these things are good things to do when you're in this state, but they just haven't helped him in this circumstance. And so we read in verses 4 through 6, you hold my eyelids open. That is, he can't sleep. All right? He closes his eyes to try and sleep, but he can't sleep. You hold my eyelids open. I'm so troubled I cannot speak. I consider the days of old, the years long ago. I said, let me remember my song in the night. Let me meditate in my heart. And then my spirit made a diligent search. He said, He said, I want to remember my song of the night. Here's what I think he's saying. The man is a believer. The man is somebody who has had his mountaintop days. If you're a Christian, I know, and if I at least hope that you have had those moments when you have felt so close to God. You have felt like you and he are walking in lockstep with each other. That you're just having conversations with him and your heart is lifted and you and God are just like that. But he says, I remember that. That's the days of old, the song of the night. But even that is not lifting his heart right now. And so even those good things are gone, so what does he do? He gets to a point where he's going to give God 5 questions. The questions are these. Will the Lord spurn forever and never again be favorable? Has his steadfast love forever ceased? Are his promises at an end for all time? Has God forgotten to be gracious, or perhaps forgotten how to be gracious? Has he shut up in his anger his compassion? These are the thoughts of a troubled mind. The writer here is depressed. Maybe he's feeling guilty. I know sometimes we get to that point where we say, I know my sins so clearly. I know my troubles so deeply, and I don't see how God, who knows me better than I know myself, could possibly love me, could possibly have compassion on me, could possibly look on me without a guilty look. Maybe that's where he's coming from in this point. Whatever it is, He's questioning the goodness of God. He's questioning the grace of God. And he's questioning the immutability of God. This word came up in my Bible class this morning. What is immutability? It means unchangeableness. One of the things that we believe about God is that God is who he is in his characteristics. And those characteristics do not change from age to age. The way he connects with us might change from time to time, but himself, he does not change. Specifically, the psalmist here is wondering, was God compassionate and gracious before, and has he forgotten how to be compassionate and gracious? Has he forgotten how to be loving? Has God decided that he doesn't want to deal with me or with humanity in a good way anymore? Does God's character change? It's a really good question. Because if God's character can change, then maybe he has forgotten me. If God is capricious, if God goes back and forth with the winds, then maybe he doesn't love me anymore. Maybe God has forgotten to be gracious. That is the central question of this psalm. Can God's goodness change? And in verse 10, we get the turning point, the hinge of the psalm. Because in verse 10 he says, "Then I said," after asking all of these questions, terrible questions to thunder down on your head. After asking all these questions, then I said, "I will appeal to this, to the years of the right hand of the Most High." Okay, what's the right hand? The right hand is always the hand of power. This is no slight towards all you left-handed people, okay? But the right hand is the hand of power in Scripture. And when we talk about the right hand of God, this is his might, his strength. I will appeal to that. Where have I seen his might and his strength? And verses 11 through 15 read this way. "I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old. I will ponder all your work and meditate on your mighty deeds. Your way, O God, is holy. What God is like our God? You are the God who works wonders. You have made known your might among the peoples. With your arm you redeemed your people, the children of Jacob and Joseph." He says, verse 13, your way is holy. Okay, that's a key word here. It's easy to pass by in all the power words. But he says, first of all, your way is holy. That means it is of a certain character that does not change. You and I are called into holiness. And sometimes our holiness just overwhelms our actions, and it's a beautiful thing when we display the holiness of God. Sometimes we don't act so holy. Sometimes our sins and our desires get the better of us. But that's because we're called into holiness. We're given holiness by God. God is holy. And that holiness is unchangeable. He is not capricious. He is not spiteful. He says, you lifted our people among all the nations. You brought us out. He's going to detail some of this in a minute. But he essentially says, you are a redeemer at heart. Verse 15, with your arm you redeemed your people, the children of Jacob and Joseph. This is a different way of just saying Israel. God's chosen people. You redeemed us. The key act of redemption for the people And he's going to talk about one part of this was the Exodus. Today, Eric talked about the Passover in his communion talk. And that was a key moment within that redemption story, where the blood of the lambs was put on the doorposts, and the people ate this meal in anticipation of God taking them out of Egypt, out of his redeeming act of love. And that's what the psalmist is going back to with this. In verses 16 through 18, we read this. When the waters saw you, O God, when the waters saw you, they were afraid. Indeed, the deep trembled. The clouds poured out water. The skies gave forth thunder. Your arrows flashed on every side. The crash of your thunder was in the whirlwind. Your lightnings lighted up the world, and the earth trembled and shook. If you want some verses to talk about the right hand and the power of God, this is it. He controls the storm and the winds and the rains and the seas. He controls all of that. But the psalmist has one particular act of power that he is building towards. You remember when Israel came out of Egypt and the Egyptians were chasing them? God, in the cloud, in the pillar of fire, stood between Israel and Egypt. And I think the psalmist is imagining this as not only just a cloud, but of storms as well, with lightning and thunder involved. And then you get to verses 19 and 20, and we read this. Your way was through the sea, your path through the great waters, yet your footprints were unseen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Aaron and Moses. He said, this is the story of redemption, the story of the Red Sea. There is Israel with their back pressed to the Red Sea. There is no way out because they have an impenetrable sea of water on one hand, and they have an ocean of an army facing them on the other. They are dead. They see no way that they can survive this, which I think is the reason why Asaph is going towards this particular story. Of all the stories he might have reflected on, this is the one he goes to, because while the people are there at the edge of the Red Sea, they see no hope for themselves. Pharaoh is coming with vengeance to kill them. He is crazy mad at the God of Israel and at Israel themselves. If he could just get past this cloud that God is putting in the way, he is going to wipe them out. And Israel has no place to go. Their way is cut off. And they've been brought to this particular place by God. It's as if God brought them here to die. And then God says to Moses, he says, take your staff and touch that water. And the sea parts. And the people walk through on dry land. Something completely unexpected. Something nobody could have imagined happening. And Israel escapes on dry land. And forever after, they are free from Egypt. Deliverance came. Redemption came. And the imagery he uses, your way was through the sea. Didn't see that one coming. Your path through the great waters, yet your footprints were unseen. But even though we didn't see your footprints, God, you were leading your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Yeah, Moses and Aaron were the ones out front. Moses and Aaron are the ones that the cameras focus on. But the one who was doing the real leading was God himself. God, the great shepherd, who will see them safe eventually. And that was the story of Israel. And Asaph says, that's my story as well. And he says, at the moment, I don't see the seas parting. But I know, God, that that's who you are. That's not something you did once. That's something that describes who you are in your character, in your nature. And because of that, I will trust in you. Even though I don't see your footsteps right now, I will trust in you. What do you do when you're suffering? What do you do when the clouds overhead are just darkness? When you don't see the daylight, when you feel like you are pressed up against the Red Sea with an army coming at you? Well, let me give you 3 things that I think we can take from this psalm. Number 1, cry out to God. God doesn't expect you to feel like you have to hold your pain in. Cry out to him and ask him, God, why am I suffering like this? Will you please help me? Lift up your voice to him, even if it's just in pain. Number 2, acknowledge that you have questions. When he comes in the psalm and he says, will the Lord forget me forever? Is he done with his compassion? Those are honest questions, looking for honest answers. And I don't think he believes that the answers are going to be yes. He understands that the questions are going to be no. But come to God with your questions. There is a story in the Gospels. We read about when Jesus came down from the Mount of Transfiguration. His disciples had been trying to cast a demon out of this little boy. Hadn't been able to do it. And the man sees Jesus, the father sees Jesus, and he says, can you cast the demon out of my little boy? Jesus says, can I? He says, all things are possible for him who believes. He said, I believe, but help my unbelief. I'm struggling, Jesus. My boy's been sick. My boy's been possessed. My boy's been in trouble for so long, and it's killing me. I believe, but I struggle with belief as well. I get it. We here are believers. We're gathered here on a Sunday morning because we're believers, but sometimes we have our doubts as well. Acknowledge that you have questions that you want God to answer for you. Then third, remember the stories. And in remembering, remember who God is. The psalmist, first of all, says, I kind of remembered my own stories with God, my own song. And that's a good place to start. The times when God has blessed you in your life. But he said, I needed to remember the other stories as well. We need to have our own memory books, our own photo albums that we can go to in times of trouble. That's one of the reasons that it's so good to know the stories of the Bible. Because the stories of the Bible are the stories of how God interacted with people of faith. Shows how he redeemed them. So remember the stories. And in remembering, remember who God is. Not just what he does, but who he is at his core. He is holy. He is gracious. He is compassionate. He is a redeemer. And he loves you very much. We're going to sing a song right now, and I'm going to invite our elders and their wives to step to the back of the room. It could be that today you are struggling like the person in the psalm here, and that you need some help. Maybe you're trying to get yourself up by your own bootstraps, but you need some help. And our elders are there to be that help, to be a starting place. They will pray with you. They will cry with you. If you're suffering, they will be with you. If you want to talk with them, you can go there as we sing. And if you want to come and talk with me and lay something before the whole congregation, in joy or in pain, I invite you to do that. Let's stand and sing.